So how did you come to terms with that? You know, that everyone is on a different assignment and you can't take everybody with you, like where you're going.
So for me, it's the fact that it's dreaming.
Oh.
So
say that thing. Say that thing,
yeah.
Sean. Welcome to Chat It Up with Deanny. I'm your host, Deanny, and today we have a really special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Herndon, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Since he said his whole name, my name is Blondine Young. I don't have a middle name. That's great. But thank you so much for being on the show. This is actually our first time meeting in person. And you're not a serial killer. I'm so happy about that.
Not a serial killer.
But would you like to tell people how we know each other?
Yes. So initially, Blondine had reached out to me. I have a management company in which I assist people with business and personal matters. So she reached out, of course, for a business opportunity, and I was glad to work with her. We did a website that I would have to say is one of my favorites thus far. It's still up and going as well. But the reason why I like working with her is she's consistent. You know, she kept in contact. She knows exactly what she wanted, so it was very, very easy to work with you. So I appreciate you reaching out. And we've done business ever since, and then followed each other on social media. So I do feel like I know you through social media.
I know. Sean, you never said those things about me. But yeah, someone suggested you to me, and I think you were, I don't know, did you work on my website first, or did we do the flyers?
We did the flyers first.
Okay, so we did he did some flyers for me, and he worked on my website for me, and the website looks really good. Go to blackproductions.com to see the website, courtesy of Sean. But Sean, yes, you're here today because you are releasing, well, you released your book already on the, what date was it now?
November 24th.
On November 24th. And I have read the book, and like people are reading the book. Like, can you tell us, like, so as soon as I started reading, I kind of got the gist of what it was going to be about. But, you know, why did you choose to, it's kind of like you wrote this book about your journey with God, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
So where did the idea for the book come from?
So I started attending therapy in 2018. And of course the stigma, you know, with black men in therapy, I went in there the same way, like, you know, this is not going to help, but I'll see what it's about. So when I started attending therapy year after year after year, I noticed how much it was starting to help me just by talking. Whether it's to a therapist, whether it's to friends, and X, Y, and Z. And the more I talked, the more it helped me with processing whatever I was going through, good or bad. So when I wrote the book, I was like, well, if I'm talking about it and I feel good about it, I can just imagine the people who I'm not talking to, and how about I create an avenue where they can read what I'm going through, and if they're going through the same thing, especially if they're depressed or feeling alone, it can help them, which is why I decided to create and entitle it a self-help book, because a lot of people also got a little caught up on that because the book tells my real life stories, but it's a self-help book primarily because if you're reading it and if you're going through even something similar, or you know someone that is going through something similar, it can help you just knowing like, oh, well, you know, it's other people in the world going through this situation.
Yes. And I feel like the stigma in the black community, I don't even know if it's getting worse or like staying the same, but I do commend you for actually saying, you know, I need to talk to somebody about what I'm going through. Because I've been doing this in my head for a while and talk to myself and it's not working. But I have been to therapy most of my life. So when I was younger, I had lost my mom to breast cancer. Yes, I had to, I started going to grief counseling and things like that. And now into my adult years, I realized you can still go to therapy as like maintenance. You don't have to be going through something really bad. It's kind of like you go to the gym because you want to build muscle, right? Yeah. So it's like you can go to therapy for maintenance, so make sure things are going well, to keep your mental health in shape, as they would say. Yeah. So in the book, you talk about a lot of things, and you speak about, I believe it's like, your success won't heal your trauma. Correct. So I want you to explain to us, like, what exactly you mean by that, because even for me reading it, I was like kind of triggered by that, because me being a person, like, I feel like I work a lot. I do a lot of things, and I'm just like, I have to stay busy. I have to do this because I have to be successful. And then once I'm successful, whatever success is for me that day, then I'll feel better and I'll do that. So I would love for you to unpack like that section.
So the whole, I thought my success would heal my family trauma. It comes from a place where, even I want to say all the way back to grade school, where I would get good grades. Basically I would just try my hardest I could in school. Yeah. But at home, just like anybody else, when it came to myself or the family issues, the issues were still there. So even as I got older through college and in adult life, when I'm working and doing all these things, I've for those of you who don't know, I've been with Department of Homeland Security for 12 years. Oh, wow. That's my main job that I've been doing up until, my business and my book. So, even when I accomplished that, I thought like, oh, now everything's going to be great. It wasn't about the money. It was always about the milestones and the accomplishments. Yeah. And I know this is a little bit of a stretch, but it's funny because one of the current topics right now on social media is like, Cardi B and yes, and what she's going through. So prime example, somebody, well, actually not somebody, a lot of people, you can go on the Shade Room and see right now, like some of the comments like, oh, well, she has money. Just because you have money, just because you have a certain level of success or whatever it is, that does not protect you from the regular life issues that we all have to go through, no matter your money, no matter the status, no matter what job you have. So that's exactly what I meant by success doesn't heal anything. You have to still process those emotions and those issues and still heal it yourself. Yes.
I definitely agree with that, because when I read that, I was triggered, and then I was like, oh, I wonder how many people actually, feel the same way that we do, and sometimes I still have to fight that. It doesn't matter how successful I am. If God took away all the gifts and stuff that he gave me, I would still be worthy. Yep. If I couldn't help everybody out all the time, I would still be worthy. So that was a really, really interesting part of the book. Yeah. And throughout the whole book, you talk about your relationship with God, and at many times you were angry with God. So why was it important for you to talk about God throughout the whole book and your ups and downs with faith?
So the book, initially when I started the idea of writing the book, I'm like, okay, I want to hit on major life issues and topics such as money, such as friends, such as success. So when I was writing the book, of course, well, God has to come first, because at least for me, he does come first. So that's why I chose to start it off with that chapter. And for those of you who don't know, I'll give you a little sneak peek. So I started the book off with a quote saying, God help me, I think I'm insane. And literally that quote alone is just like, I felt it was important to start off with me and the relationship with God, because I think a lot of people, and I hate to keep saying it over and over, but even more so, I definitely think a lot of black men have a struggling relationship with God at the beginning. So I don't think it's me and my peers now in our adult lives that's struggling with the relationship, because if anything, by now
you either got it or you don't.
You either got it or you don't, but for the most part, we all realize that you really can't do it without some form of higher power. Yes. No matter what you believe in. So for me, that's what that chapter was, and I feel like it was important because, like I said, I myself was one of many who I did not like God. I did not like my relationship with God. And then it was opportunities that kept arising where I had to basically form a relationship with him. Just through things I was facing alone. And then I tell people all the time, I literally in my head would be like God was a friend. I was like, I do not want to go to his house. Like I used to.
It's like, that's enough for me this week.
So I had it, and then too, my relationship was different outside of my families, which is also another thing I struggle with. And because you have spirituality is very how can I say it? It's complex.
Yes, it is.
So, and that's why a lot of people don't like to touch on it. But if somebody would explain that to me at the beginning, I probably wouldn't have felt so much as like tunnel vision, as it's like just one side. So when I got older and I started forming my own relationship with him, like I said, it was very complex. But the outcome was I'm here and I do acknowledge him, and I know that he's the main reason why I am where I am.
I love that. If I'm being honest, a part of me is still angry at God. And I was like, I think he can take that. Like he can understand like why I'm angry and things like that. But really, you even touched on how like your family kind of like has a different relationship with God like than you do. And I feel like, or religion itself, like let's be specific. Religion, like I feel keeps people stuck, but being spiritual and having a relationship can actually free you.
Correct, and that's what it was. I wasn't into the typical black churches traditions, like going from 8 a.m. in the morning all the way to. I was never that type, so that's what I mean by like my family values was a little bit different. So it made me feel like, well, if I don't like the things that I'm doing in church, then that means I don't like him. Yes. But that's not necessarily what that meant.
Yeah.
And they didn't, let me also put it out there, they didn't, force it down my throat or anything like that. It was just me and my interpretations. Yeah.
And it's hard, I think, to, come to terms, with like what every Christian person says or does is not really so much related to God as much as it's related to their belief and how they see God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So you talk about family in the book a lot, and I was reading about how you had like a disagreement with your brother, and he went onto social media to kind of like embarrass you, or we'll say embarrass you. I wonder, how did that make you feel, and how did you, deal with that? Because, like, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want people revealing my business and all that stuff. Yeah. But I would like you to talk about that, and then how your relationship is with your brother now.
So, for starters, luckily I was not embarrassed. And honestly, like I said, I must have just been mature enough to deal with it at that point in time, because I was not embarrassed. However, I was, ironically, I felt bad for him when he did do it. And that's weird how that can happen in certain situations in life where somebody does something to you, but you actually feel bad for them. And you don't even acknowledge your feelings. But the reason why I felt bad was literally, and I know it's going to sound cliche, is I'm like, well, he's clearly hurting a lot more than me, because I would have never done that. Honestly, the argument, it was an argument, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, but it wasn't to the point where like we blew up. So I didn't expect that to be the outcome, because it wasn't extreme as what I thought it was. Yeah. In my opinion, we've been through at least a little bit worse. Not the ultimate, but at least a little bit worse. But at the time he was going through stuff, so I was happy I was able to give him the grace to not, first and foremost, go on social media as well and go back and forth, which I hate when people do that. I know we are human.
It's hard. It's hard. It's very, especially with family, because they're up there. They're like, well, she was doing this and she was doing that, and I was just like, I just gave you my last $10.
Yeah.
It wasn't 20, and now you upset.
So I was just blessed in that situation to really understand that basically he was just hurt. He clearly was hurting a little bit more than me, whether it was anger, whether he was mad at himself, whether he was mad at me and himself. And then the outcome on that, unfortunately for me, was the principal. So we did try to reconnect, but we never got it back to where it was. which I wasn't surprised with that as well, because I was mature enough to know at that point in time when stuff like that happens, you could get the relationship back, but it's never going to be the same. You know, whether it's a family, friend, whatever, it's never going to be the same.
Yeah. And when I think about, like, even in therapy, I talked about, like, toxic relationships and stuff like that. And my therapist was like, your toxic relationships are mostly with your family. Because they want to do you wrong. Then people are like, oh, you should forgive them. That's your mom. That's your dad. That's your cousin. Their family. And it's like, well, I'm not ready. I'm going to need some time. So I think that goes into, like, when you were talking about how you had to come to terms with, like, everybody, even the people in your family, are on a different assignment than you are. And I think I struggle with that too a lot, because it's like, I want to just, I want to help my family and be like, you can do this, you can do that, and they still don't get it. Yeah. Or even like with certain friendships, like before, they come to an end, you're like, hey, come on, let's go, let's do this, let's level up. And they're just like, no, I'm comfortable like where I am. Yeah. So how did you come to terms with that, that everyone is on a different assignment and you can't take everybody with you, like where you're going?
So for me, it's the fact that it's draining.
Oh.
So
say that thing. Say that thing, Sean.
So it's definitely draining. So in my moments when I'm alone, I'll give you an example off the top of my head. Like, I literally just went to Barcelona recently. 12-hour flight. I think it was even longer than that, but it was about 12 hours. So I'm on the flight, I get over there, I'm looking at the water, I'm eating the food, I'm doing, and of course, like anybody else, I'm human, I wish my family could be here. And most of my family, is just a fun fact, they don't like long flights. They barely like to fly. So it's like, well, you want, me as a person, I want to see the world, and I hate long flights too, but I'll get on it. And it's like, I want to see the world, but unfortunately, I got to come to terms with, I'm not going to be able to see a lot of the world with them. Because what I'm going to do, every time I plan a trip, beg them to come, like you said, we got to go, we got to level up. But that's not and it's funny because my therapist even told me something else recently when I was in a session with her, even when it comes to therapy. I'm an advocate for therapy. I talk about it all the time, family, friends. I'm not one of those people that's going to annoy you with it, but as soon as somebody brings up therapy, I'm like, oh,
come on, let's talk about this.
So even with that, my therapist had to tell me the other day, she was like, Sean, you have been in a space for a while now where you like to self-reflect, you're trying to grow, you're trying to learn from your mistakes, everybody's not that enthused to grow. Sometimes you gotta leave people where they're at, and you have to realize that it's okay for them to stay there. And it's okay for you to still build a relationship and interact with them, but you don't have to shove it down people's throats. They're either gonna get it or they're not gonna get it. So that's one of the things that help. Sometimes I won't even say leave them where they're at, because when people say that, I kind of figure you literally leaving them and not having no relationship with them. But it's like, no, meet them where they're at. And if you're up there and they're back there, it's okay to go back there and visit sometimes.
Yes.
But then you just got to keep moving.
Yes. My therapist said something about having multiple circles, right? You got a really small one, and then they get bigger as they go out. And the people who are in your inner circle, you trust them with your life. Yeah. But, a lot of people don't deserve to be there. So maybe they're on the third circle or the fifth circle. So it's not like you need to completely delete them out your life. They just need to be on a different circle.
I have friends that I literally will go have a drink with. I have friends that literally, they're only for movies. Because that's the bond. That's what we have. Yes. I have friends where, of course, we work, then we go to happy hour, but they don't come into my personal life really. So it's like, I have multiple friends. You can't get everything from one person. So I am blessed, because I know a lot of people also don't have a ton of friends. I fortunately have a ton of friends, literally. My family tell me all the time I'm too friendly. And I'm not one of those people who got 10 friends and I trust them all. No, everybody's on different levels, and everybody serves a different purpose. So yeah.
I think that's really beautiful to think about it. It's but we all need community, and sometimes it's different communities, different little communities.
Yeah. And I think what messes people up too as well, when they hear the word friend, they go, oh, that means you gotta call me, we gotta go out there. You don't have to do everything with someone just because you call them a friend. So, some bonds are just that. It's a bond, and that's between you two. And it may look different than what me and my best friend do, or me and a friend, period. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful. So, like, I took away so many things from this book, mm-hmm. and me being able to, like, connect to the things that you were saying. What do you want people to think, like, after they're done reading this book? What do you want them to take away?
Ooh, I want people to talk.
You better come on, Brother Sean. Now you feel like I'm in church.
I want people to talk. I want them to, you know, it don't have to be on social media. It doesn't have to be to the whole world. It doesn't have to be to everyone. But I need you to talk to at least somebody about your issues you're going through. The reason being is that because for me, and I think this is a fact, not an opinion, when I started talking, I started to notice, number one, I was able to get advice. Because if I'm talking to you and I'm like, well, I don't want to talk to her because I'm the only one going through it. Nobody won't understand. She probably don't know it. But now once I started talking and you start conversing with me, now I'm starting to notice we have a lot more in common than we think we do.
Yes.
Now it may be at a different level. For example, I was just telling a friend that was going through a breakup, like, you're grieving. Mm-hmm. So go through it and, you know, process it at X, Y, and Z, but also notice when you come out of it, because I just learned this as well, single people grieve.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yes. So
not me being single and I'm not going through a breakup. I'm just single, and stuff comes with that.
Yeah. So imagine being in a relationship. You got to grieve that.
Yeah.
It's no time limit on that. Everybody's different. Yeah. Then whenever you do overcome that, then you have to grieve when your next partner come in. Oh. If you want kids, especially, I know a lot of women deal with this because you put yourself on a timeline with age and stuff. Mm-hmm. Now you got to worry about, well, when is he coming? Because now my time is clicking. So it's like, then you start grieving on others. So I notice everybody in some form is going through some form of grief. Mm-hmm. No matter, but people just, I guess, of course, focus on relationships. It's deeper than that. Or even deaths. Because I also talk about in the book grieving people that's alive. Ooh. It's more people grieve alive than are dead.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think about that too, because, like, so I lost my mom, so she's not physically here, mm-hmm. but there's people who still have a mom here, but they can't talk to their mom, their mom's on drugs, mm-hmm. like, they don't have that relationship, so they're grieving, you know, not having that mm-hmm. relationship.
Now imagine that on top of that.
Ooh, stop. That's life.
Yeah.
Literally life. It's just like, sometimes it feels like one thing after another. Yeah. It's like, you know, they say death come in threes. Yeah. So you just grieving one person, then somebody else, and then it's a lot. Yeah. But I really thank you for coming on the show. Like, this book is so good. Like, I wonder, is there any other books in the future?
Yes, so this book, you'll notice, is a short read. I also wanted to keep it a short read because people like me, you know, once again, I'm trying to be very transparent in this book. Even though I wrote the book, I love writing it. I was up a lot of late nights. Yes. I do not go into Barnes & Noble on a Saturday and sit there and read in the corner. So I do want to go a little bit deeper with my next book. That'll be a couple years, and this will probably be about a 3-part series. Okay. And I'm just going to continue to spread the knowledge as I'm getting older and the life situations. And it's not all about me. You know, I'm taking some experiences away from my family and friends that's around me that people mm-hmm. can learn from. But yeah. And I was going to say to purchase it.
Yes, we was going to get to that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, go right ahead. Tell them how can they purchase a book, and then also how can they get in contact with you?
Okay, so the book is available on Amazon. We got paperback, and we have the ebook as well. Go online, Amazon Kindle section, type in Sean Herndon, and then you're going to type in Lifesavers. You do have to put the subtitle in there as well, Life Lessons from a Boy to a Man, if you want to make it a little bit easier. And contact me on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Both are the same, Sean Herndon, SeanHerndon.
Awesome. Yeah. And y'all know how to get in contact with me. It's your girl Deanny. On Facebook, it's just Blondine Young. You can follow B.L.A.A.C's page, B.L.A.A.C Latino Asian Artist Coalition on Facebook. And on Instagram, I'm Queen Blondine. And for B.L.A.A.C, it's B.L.A.A.C. Mr. Sean, I thank you so much for being on the show and coming through to promote your book. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you get the book because it is a great read.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time.